Bro,
seriously.
think about
No.
it. Think about it this way: like to have those, you know, the hit rate back then. Like
Yeah.
not to sound like an asshole, but like half the kids didn't fucking survive. So like to have 14 living children.
Well, the mortality rate was a lot better at that time as opposed to like earlier times before that. Yeah, but
This is
like
right
I
around
think
what,
all of them made it.
1840s, 1850s, like
No, this is 1860s.
18. I mean, still though, like it's right around the Industrial Revolution. Like working and living conditions weren't the best.
Yeah, but they were better than what they were before.
Certainly, but my point is like to have 14 living children, like you know, a few of those poor babies didn't make it. So like,
I think all of them made it to adulthood.
really,
Yeah, all of them did make it into adulthood. But yeah,
a lot of kids, man.
yeah, it was a lot of kids.
My man was putting in the work.
Yes, he was laying the pipe for the Lord.
Doing God's work.
Yeah.
All right, so they built an addition to the house to house the fucking Brady Bunch over here.
Yeah, let me describe the house a little bit.
Yeah.
So they had the rectory built. Immediately behind the house and to one side of the house lay a farmyard bound by cottage stabbings and farm buildings. When an extra wing was added to the house in 1875, a small central courtyard resulted. The dining room fireplace was carved with figures of monks, and decorations suggested that the Reverend Bull may have believed a local legend that a 13th century monastery had once occupied the spot. One of the monks from this monastery gave rise to the first ghost story about the site. He said that to have eloped with a nun from a convent in Burroughs, some 8 miles away, but the couple were caught and executed. He was beheaded, and she was walled up in the convent to die. And their ghosts haunted the area. The roots of this picturesque tale were cut away in 1938 by a letter from the Essex Ecological Society to Sidney Glanville, one of the most diligent and honest volunteer investigators for the ghost hunter and author Harry Price. He stated that neither the monastery nor the nunnery had ever existed.
So
yeah, that was one of the first stories. Yeah, that was one of the first stories that would come out, that a nun and a monk had fell in love and eloped and tried to leave back in the 13th century, but they were caught by the town because they were like, no. You swore allegiance to God. So if you want to fuck anyone, you got to fuck God. Or God fucks you.
Literally.
Or God fucks you or wherever. So they were like, these got to be fucking devil worshippers and shit because no one leaves the graces of God. And they beheaded the monk and they walled up the nun and the monastery in a monastery that used to be on the grounds where the rectory then at that time currently laid.
Yikes. Okay.
And supposedly that was the first hauntings. They came back trying to find each other and it didn't happen. So that leads to because the first sightings, I mean, there have been sightings supposedly before the monastery where the rectory was built, and even after, but immediately after that, a couple of the girls had reported that they saw something. Here, let's go through their report. The first paranormal events reportedly occurred about 1863. Since a few locals have remembered having heard about unexplained footsteps within the house at about that time. On July 28th, 1900, 4 daughters of the rector, Henry Dawson Ellisbull, now this is his son, because the first bull had passed away, and his son took over the rector with his family.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 of his daughters, Henry also had a lot of kids, thought they saw was a ghost of a nun at twilight at about 40 yards from the house. They tried to talk to it, but it disappeared as they got closer. So they thought girls were playing out near the rectory, and they were looking up at this is at twilight before they were about to go in for the night, and ended up what they thought they saw from their reports a nun walking around. So they were like, okay, we don't know of any nuns that's working at the church. So they decided to go up to try to talk to this nun, and the nun vanished. And they also noticed that while playing around, that they had found a path of an underground stream underneath the by the rectory, at that path where that nun, they supposedly saw that nun walking around.
Mm-hmm.
So there was running water, and sometimes the ghost hunters or people who believe in hauntings say that hauntings really intensify over paths of running water.
Oh wow, wild! Why is that?
Don't know.
Interesting. I've never heard that before. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah. So, in going on and describing the rectory a little bit more to give people more of an idea of what this place looked like. The Bull family. We're going back to the first bull.
Okay.
Henry. So Harry is the son. Henry is the father. They lived in basic discomfort. They were out gas, electricity, or main water for almost 65 years. So this place didn't have any running water in there. They had to go to a well. They didn't have any gas or electricity. When Henry died in 1892, Harry took over, as I told you before, and continued to live with his house with his numerous siblings. And at least 3 of the family remained in occupation until Harry's death in June 1927. He himself moved across the road to Borley Place, where he married in 1911, but returned to the rectory in 1920, presumably after his wife's death. But despite the agricultural glooming of their surroundings, the younger bulls seem to have been a lively crowd, according to the testimony of friends and acquaintances who contacted researchers in the late 1940s and early 1950s. The house had curious acoustics that lent themselves to practical jokes. As according to Major, the Honorary Henry Douglas Home of the Society of Psychological Research, footsteps in the courtyard at the rear of the house and voices in the adjoining cottage could be clearly heard in the rectory, along with the noise made by the hand pump in the stable yard. These provided plenty of thumps and groans, he said. Another source told researchers that the young Bull sisters took a delight in telling the maids the house was haunted, and one old servant mentioned that after being primed in his way by Edith Bull, one of the sisters, he heard shuffling noises outside her room. As he grew older, Henry Bull added his own contributions to the village gossip. He appeared to have narcolepsy, a condition to which the sufferer is always drowsy and took to sleeping for most of the day in a summer house. After his snoozes, he claims he had seen the nun that his daughter's previously seen, and also a phantom coach, which was commanded by 2 headless men.
What?
Yeah, another one of the famous ghosts that's supposedly seen was around the rectory and the church was a phantom coach with full set of horses and 2 men who were headless, riding around the path to the rectory and the church.
Okay. I mean, I say okay as if that's like a normal thing, but
yeah,
like,
like yeah, sure, why the fuck
couple
not?
headless,
Why not? Yes.
Was anyone else making this claim, or was it just
other people around the area that would come to church would say they did see this nun walking around that area, which the girls had said they saw the nun, but not that many. Other people say they seen it, but it could have been them playing along with if this was a big hoax, play on with a hoax. So they might have seen a nun because there was no nuns working at the church. This is England, so they usually don't have nuns.
Okay.
So by 1927, the younger boy had died, and the family finally left the rectory. It had become a haunted house in local imagination. This reputation was probably enhanced as the house lay empty and dilapidated over a year. On October 1928, a new rector of the Borley finally arrived with his wife, the Reverend G. Eric Smith, who spent his early married life in India, but following his wife's serious illness there, he decided to return home, take holy orders, and seek a living. Desperation may have been settling in when he accepted Borley, for he took it on trust, and both he and his wife were dismayed when they discovered the condition of the rectory. To add to their troubles, during the first winter, the Smiths soon heard that the house was haunted. The ghosts themselves did not trouble them, however. As Mrs. Smith was to write in a letter to the Church Times in 1945, neither of them thought the house was haunted by anything but rats and local superstitions. Smith's main worry is that the more nervous of his practitioners were unwilling to come to the rectory for evening meetings. When he failed to talk them out of their fears, he took what perhaps the fatal step of writing to the editor of the Daily Mirror to ask for a address of the psychological, I didn't pronounce that right, research society. He hoped that trained investigators could solve the mystery in a rational way and allay the fears of the locals. Instead, the editor sent a reporter, V.C. Wall, and on Monday, June 10th, 1929, he filed his first sensational newspaper account about Borley Rectory. His story talked of ghostly figures of a headless coachman and a nun, an old-time coach drawn by two bay horses, which appeared and vanished mysteriously and dragging footsteps in empty rooms. The Mirror's editor also telephoned Henry Price, who made his first visit 2 days later. So this pastor who ends up taking over for the Bull family and his wife doesn't see anything in the home, and they want people to come to this home, come to their home to do their churchly duties, and they call this paper the Daily Mirror, which then and now, which is based on sensationalism. That's all they do, sensationalism. They're not even a newspaper, from
Like
what I was
the
told.
Daily Mirror, the one that's around now?
Yes, there was back then.
Oh, I didn't know it was. I didn't know the paper was that old. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty damn old paper. They post a sensational story about this home. And it makes it even worse. And then it attracts this guy, Henry Price. Now, Harry Price. Now, who is Harry Price? You might ask.
Who's Harry Price?
Yes. Other than a nickname some guy gave his penis. This is my friend, Harry Price. So, Harry Price was a British psychic researcher and author who gave public prominence with his investigations into psychological phenomena and exposing fraudulent spiritualist mediums. But he hooked himself onto this story. He was also supposedly a friend of Aleister Crowley.
I know that name.
Yeah.
Who is that?
You ever heard of Aleister Crowley?
Who is that? I've heard that name before.
Oh, God, it's
Aleister Crowley. Let me.
Yeah. I'll let you look that guy up because it's hard. It's explain. Aleister Crowley. He was. I don't know the word you would give him,
An
but
English
yes,
ceremonial magician, poet, painter, novelist, and mountaineer.
Yes,
Is that what Black Sabbath is? Not Black Sabbath. Ozzy Osbourne is talking about Mr. Crowley.
Yes, he's talking about Aleister Crowley.
Is he really? Interesting.
Yes, he was also Henry Price was friends with Harry Houdini.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because they love debunking shit like fraudulent claims of